Welcome to Herdly, where books turn into 3 stories, refreshing your knowledge in minutes. Today, we listen to Joseph Nguyen's Don't Believe Everything You Think, Why Your Thinking is the Beginning and End of Suffering, in which we explore how the mind's illusions are the source of our deepest struggles. Joseph Nguyen is a writer who helps others look beyond their own thinking and conditions, recognize who they really are, and live a rich life free of psychological and emotional pain. Don't go away. Herdly the editor will be right back with the story. Let me take you through 3 stories that vividly illustrate how our thinking shapes our reality, sometimes in ways that are both surprising and profound. The first story is about a young monk who struggled with anger during his meditation practice. The monk, eager to find peace, would sit by a lake each day, away from the distractions of the monastery. One day, while meditating on a boat in the middle of the lake, he felt his boat being bumped. Frustrated, he opened his eyes, ready to lash out at whoever was disturbing his peace. To his surprise, he found the other boat empty, merely drifting in the wind. It was then that he realized his anger didn't come from an external source, but from within himself. The boat was a symbol of how our minds can create unnecessary suffering by reacting to things that don't actually pose any harm. The second story comes from the world of professional athletes. A top-tier soccer player was once asked about his performance during a high-pressure championship match. He admitted that when he was at his best, he wasn't thinking at all. Instead, he was fully immersed in the game, reacting instinctively without overanalyzing every move. He entered what athletes call the zone, where thinking stops and pure action takes over. It's a state where the mind is quiet and the body performs at its peak. This story shows how overthinking can actually hinder performance, turning what should be an effortless task into a struggle. The third story involves a successful entrepreneur who, despite achieving great wealth, felt unfulfilled. He spent years chasing financial success, believing that more money would solve his problems. But each milestone left him feeling empty. One day, during a conversation with a mentor, he was asked a simple question: who would you be without the thought that money defines your success? This question led him on a journey of self-discovery, where he realized that his relentless pursuit of wealth was driven by a fear of inadequacy. By letting go of this thought, he found peace and fulfillment in other aspects of life, such as relationships and personal growth. These stories all circle back to a single truth. Our suffering often stems not from the events themselves, but from the way we think about them. Our minds are powerful, capable of creating realities that aren't necessarily true. As one insightful line from the book states, we live in a world of thought, not reality. This means that our experiences, whether they're filled with joy or sorrow, are largely shaped by the thoughts we entertain. When we believe our thoughts without question, we can fall into traps of our own making. The monk in the first story thought his peace was disturbed by another person, but it was his own mind creating the turmoil. The athlete's story reminds us that sometimes thinking less can lead to better outcomes. Overthinking can cause us to stumble where we might otherwise excel if we simply let go and trust in our instincts. Finally, the entrepreneur's story teaches us that our definitions of success can be skewed by thoughts that don't serve us. His realization that money wasn't the key to his happiness allowed him to find fulfillment in areas he had previously overlooked. What these stories reveal is that the mind is both a creator and a destroyer. It can build up fears, insecurities, and false beliefs, but it can also create peace, joy, and fulfillment when we learn to manage our thoughts effectively. The book suggests that by understanding how our thinking shapes our experience, we can begin to take control of our lives in a way that leads to true happiness. One of the most profound ideas presented is that we have the power to change our reality simply by changing our thoughts. The root cause of our suffering is our own thinking, the book asserts. This means that we're not victims of our circumstances, but rather of our perceptions. If we can learn to observe our thoughts without immediately believing them, we open up the possibility for new interpretations, new feelings, and ultimately, a new experience of life. To truly live a life free from unnecessary suffering, we need to practice the art of letting go. Letting go of the thoughts that don't serve us, the beliefs that limit us, and the illusions that cause us pain. When we do this, we can start to see the world as it is, not as our mind tricks us into believing it is. This shift in perspective is powerful, offering us a way to experience life with more clarity, peace, and fulfillment. As the editor of Herdly, by learning these lessons, we can step into a future where we no longer let our minds dictate our happiness, but instead use our understanding of thought to cultivate a life of true freedom and contentment. To wrap up, let's revisit the powerful notion that the mind's illusions are the root of our deepest struggles. Our thoughts shape our reality, and when we understand this, we gain the ability to change our lives fundamentally. Consider the story of a woman who, for years, believed she was not good enough for a promotion at work. Despite her qualifications, she constantly doubted herself, thinking her peers were more deserving. This thought consumed her, leading her to sabotage her own chances. One day, during a casual conversation with a colleague, she learned that others saw her as the most capable person for the role. This revelation shattered her long-held belief, and she realized that her lack of self-worth was a product of her own mind. By shifting her thoughts, she gained the confidence to pursue the promotion, which she ultimately earned. This story underscores how our thoughts can either limit us or set us free, depending on whether we choose to believe them. The key takeaway here is that our experience of life is created from within, through our thoughts. If we can observe and challenge our thoughts, rather than automatically accepting them as truth, we open ourselves to new possibilities. By mastering this understanding, we can alleviate unnecessary suffering and lead a more peaceful, fulfilling life. In the end, our minds are powerful tools that can either imprison us or empower us. The choice is ours to make.